Sit back, my gentle viewers, and settle in for a tale. This particular story is one of adventure, of woe, and of the determination of a ragtag group of heroes. When we last saw the WAD Squad, they had narrowly overcome an attack on the high seas whilst on their way to Johannesburg. This is the story of what happens next. Following the disruption on the open waters, the sea split asunder, and up from the waves emerged a glorious form. It was Umberlee, goddess of the sea, much to the chagrin of Wakukin and Hilera, who were not exactly her biggest fans. Umberlee shared words of guidance with the mortals on the ship before departing back into the waves from which she came. Suddenly, a torrent of water pushes our heroes and their pirate guards far ahead toward a beach outside of the city of Johannesburg, away from any prying eyes. The damage done to the ship and its inhabitants was already immense, but all souls managed to see dry land once again. Upon the beach, Storge became attuned with his divine gift from Wakukin, a set of magic beans with a myriad of powers. Being the gracious robot that he is, Storge granted each of his comrades a bean to be used at their discretion. Vera conjured an explosive toad that she promptly named Beans, and Tarak summoned a group of shriekers. It was this last act that caught the attention of some local carnivorous wildlife, which began an encounter in which no one was left unscathed. Tired and deprived of food or rest, the group trudged along to Johannesburg, ignoring the plight of Wakukin, who seemed to sense that something was amiss. Rest would have to wait a little longer for these adventurers, however, as upon reaching the city, the cry of a monster most foul could be heard just beyond its gates. Arriving at the scene, the WAD Squad finds a mighty griffin laying waste to the fields just outside town, its entourage of demonic fiends gladly assisting it. The battle was intense, and just when all seemed lost, Wakukin propelled himself full speed into the griffin's side, wounding it deeply. In retaliation, the griffin snapped up both the injured Wakukin and the weakened Prashera in his claws and vanished without a trace. Their guide had been taken, and their dear friend had been lost. Storge, most of all, was the one to suffer from this event, losing the one person he could truly call family. The group solemnly returned to town to plan their next steps. Not knowing where else to go, the group decided to recover in Johannesburg for a while, all except Storge, who headed off on his own to find his best friend. With no leads, he quickly got lost around the city. Tarak set out to find the robot to help him put his mind at ease, and, they were good friends after all. Hilera and Vera took some time to try and find levity in the darkness by exploring the town and meeting new people. They even found folks to accompany them on a double date with one another. Their ignorant bliss was quickly interrupted, for that evening, Tarak returned to town with Storge in tow, exasperated from seeing a local church under attack by dark creatures. The women, determined to not let their night be ruined with more bloodshed and to make sure each of their dates had a great night as well, refused to assist, saying the guards would take care of it. The others returned to the church and began to fight their way inside. Eventually, the conscience of Vera would compel her to drag both her and Hilera out to the area where their friends were fighting for their lives. Holed up inside the church, Tarak found something quite unexpected, one of the staves that they had been sent out to find. An old man was tending to it, a somber look draped across his face. The man whispered silently, "Her time is finishing," before disappearing into the chapel's back rooms. Tarak reached out to touch the staff and was overwhelmed by a sense of something hard to describe. Peace, love, softness. Before him appeared a vision of the god to whom the staff belonged. Savris, the goddess of divination and fate, smiled warmly upon the half-orc and began to speak, repeating things like, "It's too late for me," and "There is always hope." Suddenly, she began to fade away as the barrier around the church dissolved. The staff in Tarak's hands crumbled to ash in his palms. Tarak was not a religious man, but he was overcome with feelings of loss and began to weep. At that moment, Vera and Hilera appeared to drive the remaining monsters away. Tarak started to explain what had transpired before a blindingly bright light engulfed them, and within a second, they were gone. When they all awoke, they found themselves in a corridor that appeared at once both pure white and deepest black, colors transcending the vision any being had before seen. Hilera instantly recognized where they were and rushed down the corridor, the rest of the squad chasing after her. Then there was a loud crash and the sound of bodies hitting the floor. Looking up, the WAD Squad saw a handful of faces, not seen since the attack on the College of Luktuk. It was the Himbo, the fellow adventuring party that had helped them reconverge the split timelines oh so long ago. Without any time to reconnect, the groups were drawn into a large audience chamber. The Pantheon was calling them. Seated in a half circle were all of the gods of the Pantheon, with Hilera's father at the center of them all. The gods were bickering about the state of the world, the attacks on Dead Man's Crossing, and the raid that had transpired near the tip, as well as the status of the chosen icons of the gods. Once their arrival was noticed, Tyr began by leaving through a portal to where Wakukin was. Trapped within a structure of pure obsidian within the base of Mount Spire were Waku and Prashera. Unable to leave her confinements, Prashera was forced to stay behind as Waku followed Tyr back home. More bickering ensued. Wakukin's role in the loss of the staves was repeatedly beat into him. Finally, Tyr spoke up to ask about the progress of recovering the staves. Waku, who had been member to both adventuring parties, explained the status of all that he knew before inquiring about what happened after he was taken from the WAD Squad. Tarak stepped forward, the dust of Savras' staff still fresh in his hands. The room went silent. The room went cold. Each god mourned the loss differently, but each god mourned more than they had in all their existence. In that moment, to ensure the souls of Savras would carry on, Tarak pledged himself as her devoted follower. Regaining his composure, Tyr looked upon both parties and told them they had to continue to act quickly. The groups were returned to Luktuk, where the raid on Dead Man's Crossing was very much being felt. Specifically, they arrived back in the potion shop of Mike and Moms, the helpful pair who had assisted them when they first set out on their journeys. However, the mood was much darker as they stepped outside, seeing the city greatly affected by the siege to the north. Nearing the medical bases, they found Mike searching desperately for his injured mother, begging to be able to tell her about his great achievement. He was accepted into the college. When they found her, it was already too late. Clinging on to her last breaths, the mother smiled knowingly at the WAD Squad. This was the vestige of Savras, her own daughter. Torn apart by injuries on the battlefield and greatly impacted by her mother's death, Mike's mom had very little time to console her son. The court wizard and friend of the heroes, Aegon, arrived hopelessly trying to stabilize her against the malevolent force that permeated her body. Silently, she slipped into an eternal sleep. After giving him time to grieve, the groups reconvened at Mike's shop the next morning, for they had received word that he wished to speak with them. Per the request of his mother's will, they were offering both groups the use of the potion shop as a headquarters for a new guild of which they would be the founding members. All the adventurers gratefully accepted, some with tears in their eyes. The celebrations were short-lived, as a loud crash was heard outside the shop. Rushing out, the group saw a gigantic dragon-shaped figure attacking the town, toppling buildings with a mere flick of its tail. All hope seemed lost until a large stray arrow pierced right into the beast's side. The arrow came from Bellis, leader of the Brigade of the Last Torches, last seen on the outskirts of Rivermarch. Along with her were many familiar faces from the adventures of both groups. Salos, the champion of Tempest and the friend of the hero Arendite, who was off ensuring the protection of Goldie. Bemin, former guard of the Mages College in Luktuk and friend to the WAD Squad, and Astera, the bandit fighter who had teamed up with the Himbo long ago. Salos barked orders at everyone to secure the town, noticing the two parties. He declared that one should head west to fortify the protections, while the other goes south to save any of the injured. With a knowing glance, the two groups nod and set off on their respective goals. The WAD Squad to the west, and the Himbo to the south. That is where we find ourselves now in the adventure of the failures of God. So, for today, my audience, the tale is all caught up, but the story of the WAD Squad and their compatriots still has a ways to go. So please, tune in next time for even more adventure.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this very special recap episode. There was a lot to go over, so I hope I didn't leave out too much and make you feel a bit disconnected from everything that went down. We recorded a few of these sessions going over the events that this video covered, but most of them turned out to be very story heavy, and I thought a video like this would do a better job of recapping the events that transpired instead of sitting through hours and hours of us just kind of talking with one another. Even though I guess that's what most of these videos are. But to clarify some things, yes, sadly, Prashera is no longer going to be part of our campaign, at least for the foreseeable future. Des had a lot of life stuff come up, and she no longer really has the time for it. She will be dearly missed as part of our ragtag bunch, but there will be someone else coming in to sort of occupy the missing spot. So please give him a warm welcome when he appears in the next episode, actually. I think he's going to fit in pretty great. Also, just wanted to say that D&D episodes will be coming out more frequently than they have for the last month or so. We've all just been very busy and haven't had as much time for the fun things like sitting down for a campaign together as we would like. Lastly, please go follow Aya Etherington on Instagram at Aya the Artist. Samuel asked her to draw up that scene of the Mike and Mom potion shop, and she did a beautiful job. We are all so grateful to her for her time and skill. She deserves all the love. That is all for now. Hopefully you will be hearing from us again really soon. And take care. Tune in next time for more adventuring. And, of course, as always, stay happy, healthy, and kind.